Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty. Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Kashenko, and in this episode, we have my friend Solo, who has been a very important person in my creative journey, and he's helped to recalibrate certain perspectives that I have, or just self-imposed limitations around what my creative process could be. So with the work that I do in artist development, a lot of it has to do with belief systems within the creative process and just our self-perception, because this ultimately affects the way that creativity is rendered throughout art and creative projects. And now being in this place where I can help guide people through certain experiences, all that wisdom comes from my own journey and the things that I've learnt. But there have been people along the way that have helped me, and one of them absolutely is Solo. And so in this space today, we honor Solo for the work that he's been doing for the community. What I appreciate about Solo, it's not even that he's trying to force anything. He's just a living embodiment of this creative energy. And just through his example and witnessing him, he tends to have a very deep impact on people. And he doesn't realize it a lot of the time. So here, we celebrate him. On a side note, the first couple of minutes of me introducing Solo, the audio was distorted again, and I'm like, the technology sometimes just doesn't work. So I tried to mix it as best as possible, but if you can get through the first couple of minutes, the audio gets a lot more clearer and better. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy this episode because Solo shares a lot of important things. And now, here's a word from our sponsors. Over to you, Solo. Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty podcast. I am Kashenko, and I have an OG here today.
You were waiting to scream that. An OG! An OG today! An OG!
Nah, because
You
I
need
gotta
the
let
horns.
him know.
Ba-bow, ba-bow, ba-bow.
Nah, because I gotta let him know who we're dealing with today, right? I have someone that is very special to me who has really helped transform my relationship to creativity, and I wanted to provide this space to honor him in his journey and, just let the people know that there are people working behind the scenes that are, helping your favorite artists, help building the culture, and his name is Solo.
Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? Bow, 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 bow. Yo. What's up? What's goody?
What's goody, bro?
It's your boy.
It's your boy. Thank you so much for coming on here.
That's cool. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Number one on my list.
An OG!
I was no lie. I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, how am I going to introduce Solo? I didn't want to overthink it, but I'm like,
Oh, that is the best. That's the best intro I've had. I swear to God, in my career, that's the best. One of the greatest intros of all time, for sure.
I want to get into your relationship with creativity and where it all began for you. So, when was the moment that you kind of identified that you are creative, and this is kind of the pathway that you wanted to go down?
Oh, that's a crazy question. Um, oh, that's really. I feel like with me, um, there's never really been a moment where I knew I was creative. I always just feel like that was the normal thing to do. Um, it's always really been a gut feeling. Like both of my parents are actually very creative. Like my dad is an artist and still is to this day. There's like a lot of like traditional Pacific art. Um, and my mum also has just been a very just I feel like she was ahead of her time with a lot of things, like the way she dressed, and she was also into art. And I think that's one of the things my parents had in common. So um yeah, just I've always kind of it's always been around me, but I always just thought it was normal. So I've always kind of just followed my instinct most of my life. But recognizing it, I'll be honest, like only the last to be honest, like maybe COVID. Yeah, COVID was probably the moment of like, oh, yeah, it's just the idea of like not just being a producer, like maybe being, you know, maybe being an artist or being a mix engineer or being everything. And then kind of like looking back on my journey and being like, oh yeah, I can do anything, you know? And I think that I've only kind of recently started to realize, oh, I'm just um I am a creative person or I'm a creative being that just wants to build things and imitate what God is, So um yeah, it's been interesting, but to be honest, the path that I've taken was only um really based on instinct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy because when you say that, I'm like, because I've obviously known you for years
Ages.
years before COVID even. So like for you
Yeah.
to say that, or that's when I kind of fully I realized that because I've always just seen you. You're someone that's just been ahead of your time. Just your energy and attitude
Thank you.
towards creativity, like
Yeah.
so. Yeah. Do you think it was more of like you consciously kind of picking up and connecting the dots in how your life has just made sense and that's what made sense in the moment?
Yeah. It's funny because I was I was talking about this not long ago, and I was talking about like one thing I did realize quite young is like the cards, not everyone gets drawn the same. We don't get drawn the same cards in life. So, um, for example, um, when I was a kid, like obviously my parents broke up when I was quite young, and like actually when I was one, I think they split. So I was growing up with single parents and bouncing between the two. But I remember when I think I was like 7 or 8, and I went to one of my friends' place, and like he was showing me around his house, and I was like, oh, like this is a mad house. And then he was like, oh yeah, he showed me the rooms, and then he was like, this is my parents' room, and I was like, oh, like both your parents? And he goes, yeah, and I was like, they sleep together in the same room, and he was like, yeah, and I clicked on like, oh, your card, like we're different. Like everyone gets different things in life, But you what I but what you do is with what you have, you make it work. Yeah. So I realized creativity was one of the cards that I got drawn. So I just follow that and make it work.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful, just the way you said that.
Yeah. And it's the older I get, you realize these things that, you know, sometimes there is balance in the world, but like it's like some things work in your favor and some things don't. But that's what makes the world, you know what I mean? And you just, with what you have, you just got to try and make it work and follow that. Sometimes, but the thing is in society, we look at everybody else and we're like, oh, we should be like that because they're at a success rate, but without realizing like everyone has a different clock. Everyone has a different time. We actually don't live on the same time. What happens to me, like, will happen to me, but in your time, it will happen at a different pace. You know what I mean? It will happen, but it just happens differently. It doesn't happen the same. But society does this thing where it like tries to project that it all happens at the same time, you know? And it's the same thing. Like I'm not supposed to be a sprinter. So why would I try to compete with Usain Bolt? I don't sprint. You know what I mean? I have something else. And it's at a different time and a different place. But I think people are like just trying to compete with each other without realizing the individuality. Yeah.
That is so huge. So, because like a lot of the work I do in artist development and just what I see myself doing in the future is really about reminding people of this like authenticity and
Hmm.
understanding that you are literally a being that has your own trajectory, and through your desires and your vision and how that's kind of all what like organizing itself, it's beyond a timeline, you
Yeah.
know? So I really try to emphasize that with the people that I work with and for them to honor their path. I'm curious because
Yeah.
you've worked with a lot of artists and a lot of type of creatives.
Yeah.
Is that something that you see as being like a limitation from them truly accessing their own creativity?
Yeah. I think yeah. Wait, what was the first part of the question? Wait, I kind of lost.
Yeah, so because you've worked with a lot of artists, yeah,
Yeah.
and because you have that mentality of, I'm kind of just doing my own path and it's going to come in my own time. But do you
Yeah.
see how, with the people that you work with, that there is that kind of limitation in
Oh
belief with
yeah.
the time?
Yeah, 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 yeah. 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 100%. Yeah. It does. I think that's why I always the good thing about it is that I have experience. So I can be like, oh, I've seen what's on the other side. Um, like just be careful of this, this, and this. How you go over the fence won't be the same as mine, but the process could be quite similar because you're going up over the fence and down. So just be mindful of like, you know, little things that are on the fence because I've been over. So I think I feel like for me it's not I always just try to guide a lot of the artists and just be like, look, I've seen the ups and I've seen the downs. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of artists they are on a race. You can see it because, like you said, I work with a whole bunch of artists and it's crazy because sometimes I'm working with a bunch of them at the same time. And it's like they're all in the same race trying to like,
So you kind of
compete
see
against each
how
other.
it go crosses
Yeah, yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm in different sessions being they're trying to do something and then I work with another artist and they're doing something. But I feel like the the artists that it's crazy because yeah, there's so many. Man, that's a really like dynamic question because like you see, I've seen artists in every state. I've seen artists in the success state. I've seen artists at the grassroots. I've seen artists that are trying to compete with the guys who are at the 100% success rate. I've seen artists um trying to the artists that are come like that's after the success, you know. So and it's crazy because it's yeah, I've actually been in a period of time I was working with all of them at the same time. But yeah, I feel like that just due to lack of experience, they're definitely they don't understand the you know, your time, you're on a different time. Yeah. It is limiting, yeah. Definitely 100%. Yeah. But it's crazy because like the other thing is some artists the artists that are just like they don't even care about anything. They just know their purpose and are just like going regardless. Those are the ones that are just like you can see the rise. It's like a express like elevator straight to where they're supposed to be. I've seen that, which is crazy because they just know the purpose. So they just go. They don't care about anything else. It's just like I know where I'm going. Well, not that they know, they're just like just so zoned into it. And you just see the elevator just like a from level 1 to like level 100 real kind of quick too.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because when you say that, I just think of devotion. And it's a
Mm,
different type of energy when you feel called into music or whatever you're creating,
mm,
you are able to just organize your life and be focused on the things that matter rather than the things that don't. Like,
yeah,
instead of getting caught up on like the time or the metrics or like this and that, and like, because we're constantly faced with what's projected
yeah,
in terms of how we kind of see a successful career or like
yeah,
just being successful as a
yeah.
human.
Mm,
So you need something that is just beyond the kind of physical metrics and the validation to keep
mm,
going.
yeah.
Um, so with you in your process, because I've been seeing you, you're just creative and you're just doing it, and you kind of understand that this is who you are on a deeper level. And I
Hmm.
don't think you haven't been someone that's just like focusing on yeah, like we've had so many conversations. You're not the type of person to just focus on like just random stuff, like, or the
Mm,
noise and whatever. You're just more focused on like what can I create and how can I express myself. So
mm.
where does that come from for you?
Um, I think it comes from again following my gut and my like my school years. Like my school years, they were really like that's when I found breaking. Like I found hip hop, you know. I found hip hop and like to find something that was like an escape, like you can create it yourself. I always knew art was there and I was good at art. And obviously my parents were they're artists themselves. So I you know, that's kind of always been around me, the creating part. But it wasn't until I really found like hip like the culture of like hip hop and like and knowing it's free. You don't need anything. Like you can just do anything yourself. You can build it from nothing. That I think changed a lot for me. But like, yeah, I think I it's weird because it felt like it gave more purpose to a lot of things, you know? Like I can express how I feel through a certain movement, but at the same time create my own original move, you know?
Hmm.
Um yeah, I think that was like one of the biggest turning points. Just being able to create something from nothing and understanding that. And I just keep following. That's it. I just keep following it. Yeah. I remember in school too, teachers would be like, "What are you gonna do with that?"
Really?
I'm here now, bitch. I'm joking. I'm joking. No. No, the teachers were. I think they just didn't understand it. You know.
Yeah.
I think they just didn't understand it. But like, I, I don't. I think, yeah. But that's just one of those cases of me just zoning. You know, just staying in a zone and just following it. Yeah. And I feel like that's such an important thing when when it makes you feel like nothing else matters, you just got to follow that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, do you think it's people being wired a different way? Like, because I feel like we all have different types of templates and energies that
Mhm.
we're working with. So there are
Mhm.
people like yourself that are more, I guess, inclined to follow the feeling and the spirit or soul of something that's you're kind of being led. But there are some people that are more kind of in their head about it, like strategizing and
Mhm.
being more logical and thoughtful in that sense.
Yeah.
So, um, when you work with other artists and other creatives,
Mm.
do you see how the roles all fit together, if that makes sense, when you're in the creative process, in terms of there being a space for the creative to just flourish and then the more like critical logical aspects kind of all coming together.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely know how they all play their part. I think with me, I'm not good. I'm, de- I am definitely solely for the creative.
Mm.
I think my heart and my drive is solely from just um, like just push forward, explore, like push forward, like even like um that quote from ASAP Rocky, how he's like, "How can you knock someone for trying?"
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes ever. Like, you're gonna knock someone for trying? That's corny. Like, how would you know if you don't try? I think that's like I've always kind of followed my like pushing through the norm or pushing through boundaries just because no one's gone there. So how would we know? Like, but yeah, I feel like I've always played on that part. Like,
Yeah, you have.
you know, like who, like, you know, sometimes doubt does get me, doubt and like logic, but like I always, the leader in my mind is always no one's there. That's that character. It's like, no one's there. Just do it. Do it before And like half the time, I'm just like, I want to do it before someone else does it. Just to say that I did it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is, like you know what I mean. Like if I'd rather have that and be like, you know, in 20 years' time, someone find it and be like, man, this guy actually did it before everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's like one thing I thrive on. Like if I could, I don't know, like create something and nobody thought of it, uh, that's like that's like a what do you call that? An addiction. Yeah. 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 It's like a drug. Like I just want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the originality and innovative spirit
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
carry. Pushing boundaries, I really like that. And I do, when I think of you, I think you're someone who does push the boundaries and just do your own thing. And especially when I met you, that was what I was drawn to, was the sounds you were creating. You know, back we met in like 2017, around
Yeah.
then. Yeah,
Crazy.
so um yeah, that whole era
Mm.
of the sounds you were creating. Do you want to
Mm.
talk about what that process was like?
2017. Yeah. So as much as I love like, because yeah, obviously I've worked with a lot of hip hop artists. I actually like electronic is actually like my favorite genre
Mhm.
because I feel like in that style, that's where they experiment the most sonically. Um, so I've always taken inspiration from that, um, especially the ambition of it, or like you know, the forward thinking of it. But even in saying that, hip hop even comes from that. There's one of the reasons why I feel like hip hop is so far forward is because of electronic music. But um, yeah, I think so. I've always had that kind of in me. Even when I started producing, I started with electronic music. Um, but yeah, when I think I would have met you when I came back from France. I was in France for a bit, but you know, I was kind of like tapping into what was kind of happening there as well. And obviously, some of my favorite artists are from there. And you know, at the time, I was working with like Ampha Rose, um, you know, a little bit with Manu, um, and JD, so IE at the time. But I saw a lane of like, man, imagine mixing R&B with like this kind of like real dark electronica style
Mhm.
that's been going on. And I just really drew inspiration from it. But without realizing too, like the inspiration of like old 80s movies and stuff like that. And I feel like I had been messing around with it myself for a while. But I think with when I was working with IE, we really started to like find a middle ground of like something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of a real interesting time because it was really underappreciated.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I-
yeah. Those who got it really got it. But like I noticed everyone around us were like, they just didn't get it. Like, but yeah, even like listening back to it now, it still sounds incredible.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was listening to that project like not that long ago. It was probably like a couple of months ago, and I'm like, oh my lord, this, because
Yeah.
that just sound and the energy of it helped unlock things in me creatively.
I think too, because um the other thing at that time as well is I was like helping JD write, and as well as doing the production. So it was kind of like, and I think he was going through something at the time, and I was like, I can't just make the beats. You know what I mean? I have to get fully involved to understand the mind, to help that artist bring out what's really inside of his mind, you know?
Mhm.
Not saying that I was like like I was bringing everything out. He's a great writer, but like I think like a lot of at the time a lot of producers were just making beats, that was it. But like I was trying to like help with melodies, help with like different things vocally, and you could hear me throughout the whole
Yeah.
EP doing harmonies and stuff like that. I think that's again with me being like, I just want to be able to do that before everybody else. And so, yeah, we I think that's what made it also a bit more like gelled, like more like I don't know, it was just more like cohesive than just like, yeah, I made the beats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah. And that's
Yeah,
really important that you bring it up because it's the artist development aspect of it
yeah,
too. It's the nurturing and knowing that even if you are a producer, you
mm,
are curating an experience with the artist to it's like
yeah,
an energy that becomes its own thing. And that's what
mm,
you're putting into a project, you
mm-hmm,
know?
yeah. I think that part, it kind of opened my mind as a producer. Like, there's there's a very big difference with like someone making the beats and then someone really pulling the life out of the the song, and the artist.
Hmm.
There's a huge difference. And it becomes more like you really start to see the mind of both worlds, like the artist and the producer, and the development of the project itself. So
Yeah, and so what did you learn from like that whole experience and the sounds you were creating? Because you ended up releasing your own project after that. So what did you take from all those experiences prior?
I think after working with IE and doing that project, I realized like I could, it was like a beta test,
Mhm.
like, and then it made me realize, man, I could actually do it myself. Like, cause I was already like, 3/4 of the way there,
Mhm.
like from making the beats, mix mastering it, helping him write, doing some cadences. And I was like, all I need to do is just do it, do it me. And so it was actually mad. It's a mad learning curve, but it gave me more confidence to. It's crazy because it took me a whole project to do my own project.
But that's the whole thing about artist development. It's not like a
Yeah,
linear thing. There are so many different pathways.
yeah,
You help other people and you get to learn their process and you get their
mm,
codes,
yeah,
and then you exchange these kind of energetic and intellectual resources with each other, creative
mm,
resources with each other, and then you go
mm,
and do your own thing. So, yeah, it's
yeah,
like it all helps build the context. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It was a good learning curve. I definitely think it was very pivotal in in my career. Yeah, but yeah, it was it was so ahead of its time. That whole process was was a game changer. And like I said, yeah, it was definitely ahead of its time because at that time nobody was doing anything like that. Not even close.
Nope.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this made me think about um, the soul aspect of music. So
Mm.
when you hear music, how like how can you identify that it's soulful?
Um, so my what happens is it makes me feel like I'm in a movie. Yeah. So if I hear a song, I'm like, and I hear it, and it makes me think that I'm in a scene, a movie scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is on. This is the one. Yeah. So it's so funny because like even with my own music, what I do is I would make a tune or whatever. And when I think it's special, what I do, this is my little hack. I would I would play it, and then I would pull up like an old Bruce Lee fight scene, and then if it goes, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
Because like those scenes are like, you know, they're so epic. So and they have all the zooms and the fucking,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So well, that's what I'd do. I'd play it to like an old Bruce Lee film, and then maybe Blade Runner, the old Blade Runner, but a lot of old '80s movies I'd use as like references to yeah, to make it to see if it has the soul in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and because your music is um really a journey. You're more interested in like creating a journey with the textures and the
yeah,
transitions and like the sound selection too, and how rather than it just being like, you know, a beat, it's like a whole musical sonic journey, you
mm,
know. So that's what I appreciate about your work.
mm. No, thank you. I think like I try not to make it a song. I feel like music is like a piece. It's like a art piece, not like a song. I feel like song is like an old term. I feel like art, like music, should, like you said, it should be like a journey. Like it doesn't. It's art. It doesn't have. There's no formula. It's not supposed to.
Hmm.
We just make it so the general consumer can be, you know, they can sing it by the second time around, so it just stays in their mind. But I believe music should just be pieces of art that that are just from your mind, because that's all it is. It's just stuff in your mind you're just trying to get out. Whether it makes sense or not to people, it doesn't matter as long as it makes sense to you.
Hmm.
That's what that's what matters. But you know, like I said, with society, they tell you no, it has to be like this or it has to be like that. You know,
And people forget that, you know,
yeah,
because they people forget it because we adopt beliefs and things that are not ours, you know, so it just keeps on perpetuating a loop of like just inauthenticity.
yeah.
Oh man.
It's weird. It's so weird. Like if you listen to the old Beethoven songs, like bro, like man's just doing crazy scores. Like what are we talking about? You know. But people are like, oh, you know, this song had two hooks and two verses. Like it should be like this. And
Hmm.
see, everybody likes it, but that's just for now. That's like microwavable stuff, you know. You want food that lasts for ages.
Yeah, there's a place for it, you know, if you want
Yeah,
to do that. but there's also a whole realm of creativity that you have to allow yourself to be open to,
Yeah.
and just transcend those kind of uh standards, or just the framework we
Yeah.
use, you know.
Mm. And it's beyond our time. Like it's like you like it might not make sense now, but you never know. In 40 years, someone might pick it up and be like, yo, what the hell?
Exactly.
You know? So I think that's important. Like, just follow whatever's in your mind because that's what it is. It's people want to know what's in your mind. And it might relate, you know, it might not. It might relate later, it might not, you know?
Mm.
But you just got to show your perspective. You have to show your lens. You have to show, you know, whether it connects or not, it doesn't matter. It's what makes sense to you. That's what gives you peace.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's what gives me peace anyway. Just what's in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The act of expressing itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It brings up an important point of releasing the judgment of yourself, and
Mm.
then also the judgment of how people are going to receive it. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're someone who's trying to innovate and
Mm-hmm.
just be creative and express yourself, that you I think you should, to some degree, consider what might be interesting and palatable for people to receive. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the priority really is your self-expression. So what has it been like for you in terms of the judgment aspect of, like, of the judgment you have on yourself, and then how people will receive your art?
I'm pretty harsh. I used to be like real harsh, but I think that's just due to me not like really understanding how to maneuver around my program, like maneuver around logic. Because that's when you're kind of limited, you're like, oh, is this? But when you're, when you completely understand, or in music, like what you're able to do, the possibilities are endless. And that kind of gives you more confidence. Um, so at the start of the music career, that was kind of like, oh, I used to doubt myself heaps. It's the same in dance as well. When you don't have many moves, your confidence is not that great. But when you have a lot of moves, you start to kind of just embody who you are and you don't really care. You just start to care less. Yeah. Um, but if we're talking now, I don't like, I have a lot of ideas. I was going through them the other day and I was like, oh, nah, these are all trash. But maybe I was just on a bad day, but I think I just don't really care. Like, but yeah, I feel like right now I'm at a state of like, just whatever, just make anything. Doesn't matter what you make, just make whatever. And I guess there's some sort of confidence there. Um, and yeah, so I guess if that answers that part of the question, I'm like, yeah, right now of where I'm at and understanding that I'm just a creative person. Just create anything, you know. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Um, in terms of how people receive it, um, I feel like I feel like it does get hard because of everything around us. Like we're so, you know, um, the market is so saturated and it's easy to see everyone's numbers. Everybody's showing off numbers. Everybody's showing off this, that, everything. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm just in a state of like, move with purpose and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about anything anymore. Just move with purpose. That will, when you have purpose and when you make things purposefully, that it doesn't matter what people think because you know the goal, you know the assignment. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't really care. I'm just making whatever. Like right now, I'm making a song with one of my friends. He's a breaker. He's a b-boy, and we just had an idea of like make songs for breaking. Like just make it for that. I haven't done that dance for 10 years, a decade plus. But it gave me purpose because I think they need it. You know, it's a market that no one's there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that. So I think when you find the purpose, um, you do at some point have to be a bit like, uh, at some points, people like, you do kind of get the, you know, the doubt, but like when you just follow purpose, nothing matters. You just, you know, it just secures the vision more, you know?
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. Secures the vision more.
Yeah. It's like a belt. It's just like a belt. Just yeah.
Holds you
Your
tight.
pants. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a belt. Your pants aren't falling down. It's like because I got the purpose belt. You know, I'm not gonna walk around my pants fall down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but yeah, I think like how like I said in my career and with music, I have had doubts. Like doubts, that's normal. Of course, you're creative. You're always gonna think, oh, what do people think? And the other thing is because your songs are your children. Your art is like your child. You're giving it out to the world to be, you know, open to critique. So of course it's hard. That's so sad because like some of the greatest songs we'll never hear just because the artist doesn't want to let them go without realizing people might need it. I
Mm,
think that's the other thing too, is like I really think about like if someone needs it, does someone need
mm,
the music, you know? Regardless, if it's one person, you might save one person's life. You don't know. Yeah. And that's why I always tell a lot of artists, just let it go. Like someone's gonna find it. Someone will. Someone, surely. Um, especially if it's that authentic. But yeah. And the other reasoning is like, man, I'm just tired of hearing it on my laptop. Fuck, just
true.
put it out in the world, you know what I mean? I can't just
Yeah.
keep hearing it on pulling it up in my hard drive and then seeing it. So
Mm,
yeah. But like it's the critique part is yeah, your art is like your child. You put so much time, effort, you know, your soul, your you know, your emotion into it, and you're gonna give it out. It's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
mhm,
It's not easy. That's why, yeah, like I said, like there's a lot of great songs we'll never hear just because of that reason.
mhm.
But yeah, yeah,
What you said is interesting about, releasing your music into the world because
mm,
there's someone that might need it. But then you also brought the authenticity aspect of it. Do you think, because for me, I think it's really important to cultivate that authenticity. And when you feel like it's time, I feel like you're gonna feel when to share it, you know?
yeah,
So we live with people in this world and we're sharing things we're sharing things with each other, and that's kind of what helps humanity evolve, you know?
Yeah.
But how do you see that versus the kind of culture going on now in music where it's more, there's this encouragement to just constantly release music?
Um, I feel like in certain spaces. Well, the other thing too is like it's becoming real easy to make music.
Mm.
So like, man, every kid now is a producer. You know, every kid now is a rapper. But I think I honestly think for and it's kind of like going to like what you're doing as well, especially with artist development. Like
Mm.
we do need like a space of nurturers, you know? Like I think that's why it's kind of important what you're doing is because we do need people, not managers. There's like true and not even A&Rs. You need like development, but like artists, creative nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a space that needs to be kind of, we need more of. Um, and they do happen in like teams. For example, you have like, let's say ASAP Mob. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're all cultivating the music, the look, the vibe, but there's like what 10 people in there cultivating it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like we need like creative nurturers that are there to like guide and provide options and provide direction and provide like safety for the creative, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of like a creative who has probably created some crazy music or crazy art, but is just sitting there like, do I go here? Or is my vibe like should be like this, or is my aesthetic like this? We need more people to be there to be like, yo, it's okay. Like, try this, try that. You know, it might not work. Like I mean, but what is working, right? Um, yeah, but like just to give safety so the artist or the creative can make decisions confidently
Mm-hmm.
instead of unconfidently. You know, unconfident, is
100.
that a word? Unconfidently, inconfident. I don't know. My English is so bad.
I'm not gonna even try.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like just with doubt, making decisions with doubt.
Yeah.
You want the artist to be making decisions with confidence and being like, okay, and intention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like we need people in that space doing that, and and having those discussions with the creatives all the time. You know, almost like a therapist being like, yo, okay, what are you thinking?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
That honestly, Solar, that's exactly what I do. Cause
I know.
I,
Yeah, yeah, I know. We need more
the
of you.
yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
saying like, cause I think when it comes to artist development, I
Mm,
don't think people realize fully what it actually is. It's like
hmm
it's okay. A lot of the times, what I see is it's more about how to cultivate the artist and their gift in more practical ways and
mm,
all of that kind of stuff, to develop their singing or their
mm,
craft. and stage presence and like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, leverage them in all of these ways. But it's a lot deeper than just those practical and physical things. There's an aspect of soul that really needs to be
Yeah.
integrated and nurtured into it, because like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, the confidence part is so important. And when I was working at a label, and you know, just that whole time when I was kind of more active in the industry space and meeting with different people, there was just like an obvious feeling of artists not even believing in themselves.
I know.
Like
I know. No,
it's
100%.
so freaking, it's
It's crazy.
so much of it and so often. And I could see like even in the label space that I was in, I would sit there and just have conversations with the artist, because I knew that's, you need to like help nurture them in
Mm-hmm.
them feeling confident to
Yep.
actually execute. You don't even have to tell them like the strategies of like what to do, because I also
Mm-hmm.
think it needs to come from them and where they feel like they're being called. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
obviously have the people around them to help guide them in terms of the business industry aspect. But it's like they need to have the confidence themselves to be like, okay, this is what I want to do, because I feel I have clarity on who I am, what I'm creating, and where I'm going. It's the vision, you know, connecting
Mm.
them to their vision to be confident in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. And it's sad too, because like the artist or the creative will make the label a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like this tightrope that they walk on, and if they fall off, there's no like, they're like, did I fuck up, or did I? They're left on their doubts. They fall on their doubts when they're like in the label. They're just walking on this tightrope, and then the label is like, oh, you got to do this. We need that. But like, if they fall off, where do they land? You know, and
Mm-hmm.
they lose everything. They even lose like their doubt of music. A lot of artists just fall off, and they're off music because you know, they weren't even given that surety of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's an important space for people to just check in with the creative to see if they're okay. Like, just to be like, okay, you know, like you said, connecting them with their vision, connecting them with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that, you know, what they're doing is good. What they're doing is okay. Yeah. Man, I've seen so many cases. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
crazy. And I guess in some, not that I'm lucky, but I'm just resilient. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, this is all I got to
Mm.
make it work. I have no option. I try to get a job. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not, mate. For me, I'm just like, well, fuck, I'm this far. I'm just gonna keep going. Fuck.
I got a job. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Fuck. How ironic is that?
No, that's how I feel too. I'm like, this is I mean, I have a lot of different things that I'm good at, but this is what I'm meant to do. And it doesn't, like, I just can't do anything else. I'm meant to do music. I'm meant to be in this
Mm.
industry. I'm meant to
Mm-hmm.
nurture people. I'm meant to use my gifts in this way. And
Mm-hmm.
like, when you're just so in tune and locked in with that, it's like, it's almost when you step outside of that and do something that's just not you, it's like you feel sick. That's what it's like for me.
Yeah. 100. No, I'm the same. I'm actually the same. You're just like, wait, what am I doing here? It's just like you're
For
just like,
real.
what the hell? What is this? But yeah, but you just gotta. It's one of those things that's just like you really got to tell yourself, um, just keep going, man. Just keep going. It's okay. Just keep going.
I think one of my goals, now that we're talking about this, it just reminded me one of my goals is through the work that I do is to help people come into this space, you know, because it's like
Yeah.
it's more of like a soul calibration. It's like
Hmm.
help align. I want to help align people in a really intentional and specific way and help weed out all of the kind of distortions in their belief systems and
Mm.
everything that's stopping them or limiting them from actually being who they are with they're meant to be. Sometimes that means like for example, with my artist development program that I was doing last year,
Mm.
there was like a whole journey I went on with someone where they wanted to step into music to because they felt like it's calling them, but through the 12-week process they went through this whole like untangling of themselves,
Hmm.
and at a certain point they're like, I don't want to do this because it just brought up so much triggers,
Mm.
you know, it brought up so many insecurities and fears, and then by the end of the program, they were like, you know what? This is what I want to do now. Because they sorted out all of these internalized things.
Yeah.
And we got to the root of the things that were kind of limiting them. And
Yeah.
now they are like working on a whole project, like fully.
Yeah.
So it takes, that's the journey. Like it's more than just creating music. It's like you're going through these really deep processes and facing yourself.
Yeah. Those are the like that thing right there is literally the core of it all. Is like untangling everything to get to the core of what it is. And that's the only place you can really start from, essentially. It's
Yeah.
crazy because I've been getting into like comic writing and stuff like that. You know, me, Jay, and Tamani have been working on that comic.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been talking with my bro, Philippe. He's he's a director. But he's taught me a lot about like the deep, like you go deeper, 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 like with certain characters, like we've been talking about like movie characters and stuff like that. I respect writers so much, such a skill. Um, but we were talking about like the characters, um, especially in the comic we're doing, and because he's right, he's doing a like a not a Marvel universe, but like a Polynesian universe for like they're like heroes and but they're like based off mythology,
Oh,
but a
cool.
Pacific mythology. Yeah, it's crazy. And he was telling me about how to get to the depth. You got to keep going layers and layers and layers and layers to get to the core of what the actual reasoning of who they are, you know? And we were talking about my character and then I was talking about like, because me and my brother are in the comic, and then he was like, well, what's that relationship? And I'm like, oh, it's he kind of has gut feeling, and I'm kind of just based on logic. And then he'll be like, well, why is that? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. I think, we kind of get into like, you know, it's a bit of an ego, the brother thing. And then he's like, well, why is that? And then so he would just go ask the question, why?
Mhm.
And then, you know, by like the seventh layer, eighth layer, he's like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the untangling of all the like layers of problems or, you know, issues, I think that's such an important, you kind of like build your path backwards.
Yep.
And then you're like, you get to the core and you're like, oh, that's the road. That's the story. So
And you also create a new identity from the
yeah,
core of who you
yeah.
are.
Because people will try to put on a facade.
Mhm.
Oh, it's this, it's that. And because like for me, I was like, he's like this, it's in this world. And then he would be like, yeah, the world is cool. But like people want something real, you know?
Mhm.
They want something that they can see themselves in. And like I feel like we can that's like literally the key. Is like what can you see yourself in? And that's why we love the people we love and would listen to the artists that we listen to, is because we feel like there's something that's a part of us,
Yeah.
or we see us in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. That reminded me of I don't know if this has happened for you, but for me, um Beyonce has just been a really huge influence on me, and I've loved following her journey since I was like a child.
Mm.
And through every project and thing that she's done, I've really just focused and like watched her and absorbed it all and resonated with her. And
Hmm.
then I remember, I think um it was 2016 or just around that period, I felt like I almost gravitated away from her.
Mm.
And maybe year, in the last year, as I listened to her Renaissance project, I could reconnect with her in a different way. And I think what is also important, as the audience too, like we can find artists and that we really connect with, but ultimately they're on their own journey as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to express themselves however they feel like they need to. We're not always going to resonate with it.
Yeah.
So I brought that up for a reason, because you're talking about how we see ourselves in
Yeah.
artists, but
Yeah.
not all the time through their whole journey.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's okay though.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens. I mean, Drake is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Even Party. Like Drake's first stuff is like game changer. But these days it's just like I can't relate, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Yeah, that happens. I definitely understand that. But like we always have an attachment to certain parts because of where we are in life as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So like
exactly.
whatever you're going through, that's just really the soundtrack of your moment in your life that hits. It's always about the mirror that you see in the artist,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Yeah.
So I want to talk about um your days of being in Justice Crew
Mm,
and like that process because I feel like that's a very specific kind of infrastructure
yeah,
that was created around that group. You
yeah,
guys were at the top of the music industry in Australia
yeah.
as a
That's so
boy
random,
band.
man. Yeah, yeah,
And then
crazy.
because I just find it fascinating that you were put in that position
Mm,
and then you it catalyzed this whole creative identity you have now to where you're finding yourself and you've created your own sound and doing your
yeah,
own music. You're independent in the way that you're curating your life and the
yeah.
creative experiences you're having. So can you talk about just what that was like and then the contrast between these two, I guess, polarities?
Um, it was a real like interesting experience because obviously before we were dancing, so like it was like you know that's where we were so dominated in was in the dance industry. You know, we had gone to represent Australia at the World Hip Hop Champs. We had gone to different cons. We were winning everything. But I think it just came to like wanting something bigger. So we did Australia's Got Talent, won it. And then the idea of like making music was pitched to us. And I didn't get it at first. I was like, that's weird because like, why would we do that? We're dancers, you know what I mean? So the idea of music was so strange to me. And music was not something that I would, up until the end of when I kind of left the group, was never really a thing. Um, Even when I was in high school, like one of my friends, he's like a crazy drummer. Um, Shout out Maeli. He was in a group called Electric Wire Hustle, big in New Zealand. But he he was like, you should do music, you know? This is in high school. So I'm like 14. I was like, why would I do music? Nah, man, I'm a B-boy. I'm breaking, man. I don't do music. I was whack, like, you know? Um, and he was like, man, you'd be really good. You know, I was like, I never really, I was, the only thing I liked in music was Pharrell. And it was just because of like, I like the idea of him being in the video clips and he'll just stand there and look cool. You know, I was like, that's mad. Like, so other than that, I don't really care. I was just this kid just breaking, doing all these flips and stuff like that. Um, but like, after we won the show and we got pitched that idea, it's so crazy because my story is like backward. So we win the show. Tony's like, yeah, just sing these songs that we got. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like karaoke. All right, boom, done. And they put it out and it just starts going well. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, we'll try it again. And we keep doing it and just keep working until until it went number one. And so I'm looking at the charts, like I'm looking at the music industry like a game. So I'm like, okay, cool. So if we keep releasing songs, um, we'll get more work, so we can do more shows. So that's how we stay in the media and stuff like that. So we'll keep getting booked. And then I remember we go to the like Arias, and we got nominated for best live act. But I remember at the Arias, uh, I can't remember who it was, but they were I think they were like hip hop artists, and they were like when our name got called out, and we there was a bit of like funny wording in the Arias too. about us. So I was just like, hey, why are they making fun of us? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I always had a chip on my shoulder. I'm not gonna say names, but yeah. So I always kind of had that on me, and I never forget it. The one thing is, I never forget. I always and I always come back. Like, I always come back to correct things. But yeah. So I was kind of like, why are they why are they kind of wording it weird or whatever? Anyway, we keep going. Um, yeah, and then it starts working, starts happening. But like, so I'm kind of in the space of like the guys who are like that are in a space that I kind of like. They're kind of like giving us slack, and then on the other side, like we're making this music, but I'm not listening to our music. I'm listening to like I said before, Drake, The Weeknd, Justice, Daft Punk. I'm listening to different things. So over the time period, it was kind of I was in this weird thing of like making these songs, but it was like a job. So Justice Crew felt more like a job, but then I had this other side that I was acquiring like tasteful music. But yeah, I think that's what kind of like made me realize at some point because we were number one, and then because I was a big fan of Flume, and I was like, I remember talking to our label, like Sony, and I was like, oh, can we do a song with Flume? And they would just bypass it. And I was like, surely, because we're like number one. We're the longest running number one artist in the country right now. Surely we'd better at least get in the room with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they're like, oh, oh, oh. And then I was like, that's weird.
Mm.
So like the whole like 4 years, 5 years, yeah, 5 years, I was with Sony. It was really like trying to figure out this weird thing. Anyway, in the middle of it too, like we went to America and like I think no, toward the end of that 5 years, we went to America and I was like um rapping. This is random as I was kind of like rapping on these like flume beats. It's so funny. And then we went to America and we're touring with Pitbull and like they heard those songs. This is actually no one really knows this, but they were trying to sign me by myself.
Oh, sorry, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah. So our managers at the time heard the music because keep in mind, like I didn't really know how to rap, but I was just kind of like, yeah, it was whatever. Like, but because of the choice of beats I was rapping on, nobody was doing it. But I showed the guys in America, and then they wanted to sign me by myself, but I was too fixed on the group, like
Mm-hmm.
in their careers. Yeah. So I was just like, oh nah, like I'm not that good. But they were like, nah, because of your choice, like what it sounds like. Yeah. But yeah, that I was just like, oh no, no, no. But when I came back, and then our song went number one after that. Um, yeah, we. That's when I was like, can we get in the room with Flume? And then, yeah, like I said, they were bypassing it, and then that's when I started to click on like, why not? And then, so what I did is that's when I went to the Dream Big studio, and I started working out of there. And then while I was in the group, like my last kind of time period I was in the group last year. So yeah, I was making beats, but I hit up um, how, but I didn't tell him my history because I didn't want to I didn't want anybody to know about it. And then he like played my beats on like Triple J, and then all Sony were confused. Like, how did you do that? Because at that time, Sony and Triple J they were clashing, wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that it was really me clicking onto the fact of like, if I look at my playlist to what I listen to what I'm making, it doesn't make sense. That's a job and this is me. So yeah, I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna go against everything I've done. And then on socials and stuff like that, I just didn't show my face for like a few, maybe 5 years or something. Yeah, 4 years or something. I just refused to show my face on social media, on Instagram and stuff like that. And then I just tried to keep that, you know, incognito aesthetic and just like showcase my creative instead. Let it be about creative because in Justice Crew, it's all about the face. It's all about, we're doing all the most, like fucking taking tops off, all that stuff. Fucking man. I was like, this ain't it, man. This is not it. I get it, we're athletic and we can do all that stuff, but bruh. But I definitely saw in the group the differences. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
definitely saw the differences of like who who's creative and who's just here to make money and who just wants to be famous. Yeah. So there's like three sections of the group I could see. And obviously money was there to be made, but I think I just chose my creative dignity first. Yeah.
Was there a specific point where you were just like, I need to tap out, or was it kind of just like did it like, what I'm trying to say is, did it end up feeling like you can't be in that position anymore just because of how it felt very different to your nature?
Yeah. Yeah. It was gradual, like, but I think when I started maybe working with IE, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's no discredit to those guys because they're cool. They're funny. Like with those guys, it's just like your boys. You know what I mean? It's like it. What do you call it? It's like doing. It's just like hanging out with your mates because we've been friends for so long. But I think when it came to some of the shows that they were doing, I was just like, nah, this is corny ass. Yeah. But like, but like they, that's what I'm saying. Like some of them want to be famous, some of them just want money. But I just needed to be creative and hold what I want to do at the forefront
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't see what I was seeing, and they're not tapped in like that. They're just tapped into where the money is. Yeah,
That's such a crazy experience to have. And how old were you? You were quite young, weren't you?
yeah. When we started, it was like, man, I was like 20, 21, I think,
Mm-hmm.
22. Yeah. So
Yeah, to have that kind of experience very early on and then you seeing what it's about.
yeah, yeah. It was so backward because I was like, oh, this is mad, and then you get there and you're like, oh, nah, maybe not. Yeah, it was just so backward. Yeah, like it was weird. It's crazy because we toured the world. We've done everything, but it was just some of the stuff. I'm just like, bro, that what? What the hell? Like so weird. But But it was cool because I was with them.
Mm.
Yeah. But like, it's so interesting. Like I said, like throughout the career, you see what people's intentions are, like who wants what. And it's not the same, you know? You'd think we'd all have the same idea because we come from the same sort of place.
Mhm.
But it was like, you see, like I said, people want money, people want to be famous. And then, man, I just want to be creative. You know what's funny though? Is like, you see people's taste. You see what people's taste is. Yeah, I'm like, bruh, what are you fucking listening to? But yeah, but hey,
So funny.
it's I'm, I'm like butchering them right now. But like, but whatever makes you feel good, it's cool. Yeah,
Well, I learned some new things.
yeah.
So if you were in a, because you have your own artist and creative identity now, so if you
Mm.
were in a position where you're really amplified in the public space as solo, how would you go about things?
In what sense?
Like, because we were just talking about you being signed to a label at like
Oh
the
yeah,
kind of highest degree here in Australia.
yeah. Yeah, it's so weird, eh? I just have that in my back pocket. Like, yeah, I was signed to a major. And I had the longest running number one in the country. Yeah, that's whatever. So funny. That's crazy. I was just talking to my dad before, and he kind of did the same thing. I was like, I haven't talked to him in like 2 months, and then he's like, "Yeah, I just came back from America. I just done the set for Moana, and I was acting in it." And I was like, "What? What the fuck?" This man, he's just randomly just says like he was in Moana, the live action film with The Rock,
Yeah,
just casually.
yeah.
How do you do that? But yeah,
I feel
beside the
like that's
point.
what you're like though. That's what you're like because you just like randomly you'll do your own thing, but then you just pull out with these random like things that you've done.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's very
funny.
unassuming.
Yeah. You know what's funny is like when we were staying in France, me and Ampha, we had this one session and then we were like these French guys, and they were like, "Oh, so what do you do back in Australia?" And he asked Ampha, and Ampha was like, "Well, I kind of like uh, have an arts degree." I think he was working for an architect firm at the time.
Hmm.
And then they pointed at me, they're like, "What do you do?" And I was like, And then Ampha starts laughing. He's like, "Bro, this guy back home has number ones." I was like, "No, no, 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 no." I was trying to just hide it. Eh? Can we look? Can we look? No, 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 no. Bruh, this is hilarious.
Why why do you do that? Because I also notice even when we're in Discord and stuff and we're talking to other people, you're like, nah, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I think because um I want to come to people the same, you know? I don't like stepping into rooms and being
Mm,
like, I'm the guy. I've done this, I've done that. I like coming to spaces and being like, I'm the same as you,
mm-hmm,
you know? Um, I don't want my successes to speak. I mean, they speak for me, but when I'm in person, I like to just, yeah, I just like to be a normal person because you never know, you know? when you go into space, you don't know what people have done. So it's good to like keep the same outlook on everybody. Like, you know, like it's just good to have mutual respect instead of me coming with all this success and being like,
Yeah.
people have they will change the way they talk to you. But like if I'm just a normal if I come as humble as I can and talk to you, you're gonna you know, it's gonna be easier to speak, you know? Because I think about like the artists that I like. If I were to talk to like in Daft Punk like Giman or Thomas, I wouldn't know how to talk because I know who they are, you know?
Yeah.
Or even like Bryson, like how the fuck would I talk to you? Like,
Yeah.
but like if I didn't know anything, it's easier to talk to you and then come to find out. Oh, and then that's where you gain respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I try to just be like, look, I'm not anybody. I'm just like you. Not saying that you're nobody, but I'm I'm just a person, a human being first. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I can also relate to that too, because I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends like
Mm,
not that long ago, how I've done a lot of things in my life, but I don't attach it to my identity. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and so I often, when I do go into spaces, because I'm not typically just like showcasing all of these things or talking about myself in all those ways. It leaves space for people to kind of assume certain things. And I think
Yeah.
maybe because there's an aspect of it where I'm a female.
Mm,
In the past, I've felt a lot of resentment about that because it's like,
mm,
just fucking talk to me like interact with me like a normal person.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, even in my dealings with the label and industry type of stuff, I, you could, I could feel just the assumptions and the projections. And I think what's been important for me in my journey is learning to separate myself from that and just build my core identity in a really stabilized and strong way so that
Yeah.
moving forward with the things that I want to do, I'm not I'm not caught up in my head about all those things
Yeah.
because it can really stifle you if
Yeah.
you're just someone who's moving through these spaces and rooms, without kind of projecting all of your successes and that. It doesn't mean don't walk into a room like being confident in who you are. It's more so just like being an open space and creating an open space to receive people authentically, rather than it
Yeah.
being this game of like, this is what they've done and that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And we can all acknowledge each other's successes, like we can talk about it and have these conversations, but
Mm,
if you want people to value you more just because of this thing that you attach to your identity, I don't think that's really I personally don't think that's the right way to go about it,
yeah.
especially if you're trying to build genuine connections and
Yeah.
relationships with
Hard.
people.
Yeah. I feel like that leaves an impression too when you just come to them as a human being. Then they later on come to find who you are. I think that I always feel like that leaves a good impression on people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the ones a lot of the times, not all of them, but a lot of the times when people come into the room with like, I did this, I did that. Usually a lot of those cases aren't like good impressions, but yeah, I'm always like, I'm a human first and then everything else after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you collaborate and you're in the studio and you're having sessions with a bunch of people, um, I was talking about this with Rahel actually on the other podcast,
Yeah.
about creating like a safe space for artists. So what do you feel like that is for you?
Um, Again, it's kind of like what we're talking about earlier is like nurturing the artist's ideas and like um, giving them that space and opportunity, um, like and enhancing their experience in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when they turn to you and ask what you think, always like with uh, critical advice, you know. Yeah, but still giving it in a positive attitude.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, I've had a lot of artists that come with unsurety, but like the good thing about me is because I am an artist as well, so I can be like, oh, what about like this, and then I'll do it. That's the mad thing I think I like about having like the artist skills is because I can give reference, and then that's what gives them confidence because then it becomes like a sparring thing. You know what I mean? Like one of the artists I work with, if he's like unsure, I'll be like, oh, let me do a cadence or whatever, and then I'll do one, and then he'll be like, oh, like he'll go, and then I'll go again, and so it becomes this kind of sparring of finding the best melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like that. Even just talking about life is always good. I feel like that's doesn't always have to be about music. Sometimes the artist is just going through shit, you know. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just good to just talk. Yeah. I think those sorts of things, those are definitely key points to what creates a safe space in the studio.
And that's really is what is important about creating music, is having that space to talk about these things that we're going through, because that's what we're writing about,
Yeah. Hard.
you know? So
Yeah.
I think if you're looking to build a team or collaborate with people, really being able to see where you're comfortable to have certain conversations and
Yeah.
where you don't, because I think ultimately that's going to affect what you're able to express in your music.
Yeah. And like a non-judgmental environment is always good. I, the one thing I always try to remind artists when I work with them is like this is like a science lab. You're just trying to find you're just experimenting, trying to find different things. It's not a show and it's not the final product. This is the place where it's an open canvas and you just throw whatever paint, mix whatever ingredients together to find it. If it doesn't work, oh, we start again, try again, you know? But sometimes artists come into the studio like, oh, this has to be done like so like structured. But I think it's creativity. Creativity is not bound by anything. It's not bound by time. It's not bound by nothing. it's its own thing, you know? It's its own concept. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about AI because I know you're so into it.
Yeah. Am I even real right now? I might not even, you might have been talking to one the whole time.
Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
They'll never know.
So, because I know you just did a course on coding and like you're into the new technologies with
Yeah.
AI. So what are you using now? And then I also want to know, how do you see it impacting creativity for the future?
Uh, right now, right now I've just been using it for reference. It's a good way to just spark up reference. It helps the speed of your um, production of ideas. Um, yeah. When we first stumbled upon it, it was like a gold mine. Um, I remember me and Bless were just like, what? This is crazy. I reckon it's a good thing. I don't believe it's a bad thing. I think what it's going to do is filter out, again, like anything, it's already saturated, and I think it's going to be like more saturated with AI, but I feel like there's going to be some really interesting things of like music and sounds. But yeah, I don't know. I think with tech and music, it's such an important combination, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I reckon where we're at right now with it all, it's there's so many possibilities. But at the same time, I still think it's good to come back to the core, like of music, like using instruments, using like old synths, using guitar. But I think with AI, it's so good to just quick scale everything. We still need the human aspect of it. I think the human aspect is so important. But with AI, yeah, I definitely suggest it just to like quick brainstorm a lot of your ideas. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other ballpark of topic. But yeah, but you can create some crazy things. Like one of that part, did I tell you the party next door one? I was like, bruh,
Yeah, you
that's
showed me that.
crazy. Yeah. And it just keeps going. Like it, even with like how they're using it indoors now, it will probably be something that you'll just have a sidekick in your door, you know? But I feel like it's gonna go crazy, and then I think a lot of people will just come back to playing, recording your instruments, like analog, full analog. I feel like that would be a thing. But yeah, but I think in terms, that's why I think I wanted to learn coding as well. It's just to like explore what the possibilities I could do, with music and tech. Still a deep dive, but yeah, I definitely that's definitely a space I'm still exploring and want to explore. What do you think of AI?
What do I think of AI?
Yeah, what's your thoughts on it all?
Um, I have a positive attitude towards it because I think growing up, there's a lot of messaging around technology in the future that is fearful and negative. Like we have a lot of movies, you know what
Mm,
I mean? That I remember watching, was it Minority Report and just like all these kind of future sci-fi movies, just being scared at like the possibilities of like especially invasion of privacy and all that kind of stuff.
mm,
I hate that aspect of it because like there's a lot of crazy people in this world, and
yeah,
There are going to be people that do all kinds of things with it, but where I'm at in my life, I think over the last 2 years, I've come to a place where I'm really embracing it, and like even with my laptop, even with my technology
Mm,
that's not necessarily like AI or conscious or whatever, I'm just I'm trying to build a relationship with it that is rooted in love and not just seeing it as like a piece of technology, or just
mm,
like this just random thing that's here. It's like
mm,
with everything, we need to build a relationship with it. And so the
mm.
more love you put into it, I think it's going to manifest
Yeah.
in a way that's beneficial to not only us as an individual, but for literally humanity. Like how
Mm,
we need to see it as like AI and technology is an entity of its own,
mm-hmm.
and we're building a relationship with it.
Yeah.
It's literally coming from us and our ideas and our whole energetics, you
Mm,
know? So it's an extension of us.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's an interesting, it's such an interesting time right now. The fact that we've seen this is crazy. But I was watching this other thing. Was it Will I Am? I think it was Will I Am was speaking about it. Was it Will I Am? Yeah. And he was talking about like how the music industry changed in the 1920s, maybe, where people used to go to like um they used to go to like halls and listen to like orchestras, yeah. And then they discovered vinyl. Like you could record it and then you could play it over and over again. And so he believes like this is the point of where we are now, of like with AI. It's like we've had music listened to in a certain way, but now it's like about to change. Because like before, people were like, "Oh, why would you listen to it on a record?" You know, that's even crazy saying that. Why would you listen to music on a record? But that's what they're
Yeah.
saying because they're so used to going to, hall and listening to it at a show. But it's like, no, you can take the product home. Now with AI, it's like,
You can take it in your brain.
yeah, you could, yeah, literally, you could take it in your brain. So,
Literally.
yeah, it's like, would we be making the music in real time that we want to listen to?
You know what I just thought of? Like, what, what if we just are able to project consciousness and then create music there, and then other people enter into that
You know what I mean?
projection, you
Yeah.
know?
That's what it's looking like. Like it's looking like somewhere in that realm. And it's not too far off too. Like if in the last what 2002, in the last 3 years, when I first heard about AI, it was like 2022, 2021 that I used ChatGPT. Oh, yeah, you remember when I first discovered it when I was on Twitch and that, and we were
Yeah,
using
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Making
So
lyrics.
yeah, making lyrics. And then now they've like you can make songs like in the
Mm-hmm.
space of like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Like that's the fact that we can do that is like, man, so imagine in the next 5 years, like what are we I'm kind of like I'm still trying to wrap my head around what it will be. And then in the next decade, it's like I have no will the doors be in our brains and we'll just be listening? Yeah, like you said, it's just in our brains. It's not even anywhere else. We're just, it's not even going through our ears. Like, what are we doing? Like, yeah,
It's just gonna be like a whole mood.
yeah,
Like we're gonna be able to switch into different states of our consciousness, and it's just gonna be like a mood.
yeah.
I
And
don't know how to explain that.
which I feel like it's still good to like um use real instruments still, you know?
Yeah.
It's still good to come back to like feeling the instrument, feeling it. Because the last thing you want, I feel like, is the instrument to be an illusion.
Mm.
Yeah.
And be disconnected from your body as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think
Still,
that's a really big thing.
yeah. I still feel like you still need to hear, like, feel the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I always like, even now, like, I'm like, I've been like dancing again. It's just to feel the music in your body, you know?
Hmm.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is world building, because I remember when I met you, there was this really huge sense of world building and you trying to create a world.
Mm,
And essentially, with what I'm doing with artists now is helping them tap into world building. So I
mm.
want to understand your perspective on what it is to create a world.
Um, to create a world. So like, to me, like Daft Punk, Kavinsky, Gesaffelstein, a lot of these French electronic artists, the way they present their music and 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 their product, they're the characters from their music, if that makes sense. Like for example, if you look at Kavinsky, Kavinsky is he even had a backstory of how he got there. So he was a guy, he was driving down some highway, crashed his car, or he crashed his car and then he became a zombie. Like that was just a quick backstory. Or he was racing to his girlfriend or something, and then he crashed the car. And now he's forever chasing this girl or something like that. But even Daft Punk, they're these robots. They turned to robots in the year 2000, and they never went back. They were never human again. So the fact that these guys like created like little backstories of their artistry is like,
Hmm.
I think is so important. Like even for me, it's like I'm living in a parallel of being a human and being a robot or something like that, you know? So you have like I'm Solo, but then you have Solo the robot. It's
Hmm.
like two parallels at the same time. One not feeling, one human not feeling anything like he's a robot, and then a robot that feels something like he's a human.
Mm.
Yeah. So um, I think like in in that um, I feel like I think it's important to like, and I feel like it just makes it easier for the artist, and you're less attached to your real life. You just give like certain aspects and substances of your real life to create, your character, and then that way. Because the other thing I was gonna say is when I was in Justice Crew, it was really about it was really about what our face looked like, and it was attached to our real life. So what happened in Justice Crew is like people were attaching them. I remember one time they got the boys' emails. So I kind of clicked on like, that's pretty fucked up. Like people can access you. But if you create yourself, you like create a projection of yourself, it's still you and you give it like the essence of who you are, but like not fully you. You're kind of safe and it kind of gives the music the forefront and then everything else after that. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So like in terms of like world building, I always try like put like kind of build like a character but that has the core of who you are. Yeah.
What do you feel like are important things for artists to consider when building a world?
I think one thing that's actually really important is 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 knowing there'll be evolution. Yeah. Knowing that things will change and it's okay to change because that is honestly one of the realities of life. Things change. But yeah, I think it's like don't um I find I hear a lot of people, a lot of artists are like, my sound is like this, or I want my sound to be like this.
Mhm.
Um, but and then like later on, they'll be like, "What was I doing?" Like, you know. But I think as long as you like understand, like things will change, your your artist or your character will change. Because you change. Even for me, for example, like I thought I write a lot of sad songs. Like that's kind of like that's where a lot of my, you know, topics derive from is like just my childhood, like being abandoned or like, and so I kind of have like a slight resentment toward, you know, women sometimes because of my upbringing.
Mm.
But, you know, it's not that it's the woman's fault. It's just the trauma that I haven't healed, you
Mhm.
know? But over time, you know, after like getting these songs, it's so funny because it's like now I'm not that I can't record, but I'm like, what do I write about? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like I feel like I've got it all off my chest.
Yeah.
You know, everything leading up to those points, those were my letters sending off the goodbyes of my trauma.
Mm.
Um, but it changes. But yeah. And now I feel like I just want to make sounds. I didn't even know. I didn't even feel like recording. I just feel like making music off my Moog and just that's going to be the music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I think, you know, sometimes as well, like when you get to the point of like, oh, where do I go? But it's all right. That's where you're meant to be at that time.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, I definitely think, but that's just the evolution of who I am. And so like, I feel like understanding you grow as an artist. Your world grows, your world evolves as an artist. It doesn't it doesn't stay the same. It's the same lens, but it doesn't stay the same.
Yeah.
What else do I take in consideration? I always think of like different for example, the Animatrix. Have you seen the Animatrix?
But Animatrix.
Yeah, like you know the Matrix, right? You have the
Yeah.
Matrix, the movie.
But the anime.
There's the anime, yeah.
No, I
Have
haven't
you
seen
seen
the
that?
anime. No.
Oh yeah, I thought it was so cool. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. Because what it did is it gave the idea of the Matrix, but in different styles of anime.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think also when world building, um, have different. I feel like I feel this is what I reckon. It's always kind of cool to have different um perspectives of the the world that you build.
Yeah.
For example, like me and Jay got the Nightcrawler 1-800 Nightcrawler, comic, and it's just like a different perspective on I.AMSOLO and Jay Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still us, but it's just a different outlook on what the world could be, you know?
Yes, I
Yeah,
love that because I'm so into Halo
yeah,
and like the games, and that's one thing. And then there's also like the books and the lore, the whole like there's
yeah,
it's so deep. But then I also came across on YouTube they have an animation of Halo. And so when you
yeah,
said that, I was like, yeah, because it really gives you a different kind
yeah,
of image. It opens your imagination differently when you see the same concepts told in different ways.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Like that's how we can relate to Marvel, because they gave us the comics first, and then they gave us the live action film, and then they gave us the games, and so on and so on and so forth. So I think when world building, really think outside for music, outside of just the music video and the the music. Like think about everything, and it could go deep too. What are you into?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a gamer? All right, let's go games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you, because it's not, like I said, it's not, I feel like an I feel like a singer or a producer or mixer master engineer or like even an artist to an extent is an old, it's like an old term. But I feel like a creative just pigeonholes it a little less.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be like, all right, I'm gonna create, you know, a game, an I Am Solo game, because I love Sega. You know what I mean? So draw. I always think it's like good to draw from your nostalgic, loves and your core and where you come from, and you know, um, those are your inspiration. Those they're all there. Like they're all there inside of you, and it's those things that inspire you. Like I love 80s action and kung fu, So I try and make music that's fitting for that. Or, I'll try to replicate, maybe one day I'll replicate how they did that, how they filmed that, you know? So, but yeah, it's all inside of here. It's all inside of my memories. It's all inside of the things that I love. I feel like that's where people should draw inspiration from. Yeah.
Yeah, because the bit about if you if you can see the kind of avenues and the ways, the different sections where you can build your world, whether it's through like gaming or animation or like storytelling, and even if it's like a physical location or whatever it is, it's like
Yeah.
you also through your curiosity and excitement to create these things, it also gives an audience different options as to how they would like to consume and
Yeah.
receive your art too, based on what they resonate with. So I
Yeah.
think that's an important, but it's not at the compromise of yourself, because you're kind of creating these different facets of your
Yeah.
world, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
meaningful to you. So that's an important thing to consider, because you don't want to do something that's like totally against your
Yeah.
being, and like it feels like
Hard.
too much resistance in trying to create that. So I think that you should lead with that. But there's just so much room and ways to discover how you want to express yourself and materialize it into the world.
Yeah, hard.
And what you said, actually, when before we even came onto this call, you brought up the idea of just being a creative rather than the specific like label of like I'm an artist or I'm a singer or I'm a producer. Do you want to speak on that a bit more? Because I feel like that's really important as creatives, doesn't matter whatever your modality is, to realize the essence of you is creative. And
Yeah.
whatever your specific outlet and gift is, that's something you should nurture. But first and foremost, see yourself as a creative. So
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think it should be implemented more. I feel like, yeah, people really come into things being like, I'm gonna be this. But like, it's funny because like I was talking to someone the other day and I was talking about like, it's crazy. Like right now, I have to be an artist, a mix and master engineer, a producer, a marketer, a
Mm-hmm.
video maker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to be all these things. Like the just like in terms of like right now, if we talk about just the current state of music right now and distribution of music, that you have to be everything. You know, why not label yourself that? Because that's what you're doing technically. But I think people should like really strive for the open mindedness of being just building, you know, creating things. Like I said, like I was saying, like it's like imitating, drawing inspiration from like the higher being, like God.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, there's like designing things, creating things. I think that's such it just changes your perspective on how you look at like the art and what it is. So if I be like, yeah, I'm a singer. All right, who's the best singer? Like, you know what I mean? I'm going against the whole roster of this thing. But like when I feel like I'm a creative, I'm just like, fuck, I could just do anything. I'm just
Yeah.
a walking, talking, creative, just just doing things. And it feels like less pigeonholed and more
Mm.
opportunity. More
Mm.
opportunity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I don't even say like I remember before, like I was producing and people were like, "You're a producer." But it's like, man, I've been dancing my whole life. I'm not
There's so
just
many
this.
facets. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to take everything. It's funny because when I was doing my coding course, um, we do this session with like this guy, and he, I gave him the approach how how I was saying before, like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to like learn something new. Didn't tell him about my background at all, you know. But and then I eventually told him because he was like asking, like, well, why did you do this? Why? He was asking the whys. And then I eventually told him, oh yeah, okay, this is what I've done. And he's like, man, why did you start with that? You know, you have all these things to you. Your whole history leads up to this point of where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
So to just say that, oh, you're just learning something new, um, you know, doesn't give me anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to the depth of who you are.
Mm.
So like you're an umbrella of all these things. You're like, I get when you say like you like to be creative because you've done all this stuff. So like it kind of gave me perspective of like the umbrella of like who I am.
Yeah.
Then to just, when I people ask me, what you do, Like, you know, I feel like a producer or like an artist is just, it's so just pinpoint. But
Yeah.
I feel like when I say, oh yeah, I'm a creative, like it could be anything. And it gives me even more option to be anything. You know what I mean? Like if I say I'm creative, oh, I could be a fashion designer. Fuck, I don't know. You know what I mean? But it gives that open door of opportunity to you know to be whatever. And it's weird because people really want to get down to specifics, but when they are like that, well, well, what can you do? Well, I can do anything, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think creative is the more of the term. It's kind of like a tradie, you know what I mean? Like when you're a tradie, it's like, yeah, I'm a creative. Tradie can do many things. He's a handyman. Same with the creative. Oh, okay, cool. Can you design this piece of artwork? All right, cool. Yeah. It's like a handyman. A handyman, the only thing with handyman, they're just on a bigger payroll. You know what I mean? But like with creatives, I feel like that should be a real term that we really push forward.
Yeah. And I can relate to that too, because even with the projects that I'm working on, right now, but I've done so much in my career, in my
You
life.
have, yeah.
Like, so trying to put myself, even just to say that I'm a singer, it doesn't feel like it does justice
Doesn't
to
fit.
like
Nah.
my whole
Your whole resume.
resume and blueprint.
Mm,
Because I've done choir, I've done singing, I've done working behind the scenes in the label. I've helped people in my own, like in their own projects, like as an independent kind of
hmm.
creative in person. I've done all these things, like video editing, like, one
Graphic
term,
design.
graphic design, freaking animation,
Ah,
freaking
yeah.
coding,
You
all
know what I
of
mean?
it. But that doesn't mean that's not to because some people do like specific things and
Yeah.
they're good at that thing and they can nurture that thing. There's just different kinds of people and that's okay.
Hmm.
And it's for me, it's not that I can do all these things, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily stick to. I think I just like variety and
Yeah.
I like the ability to do things myself and be hands-on. So that's kind of what I work with, and I like to see my ideas through um like the vision that I have, see it
Yeah.
through my own intelligence and seeing what I'm capable of. Um I don't like doing all of this stuff. At
Mm.
some point I'm gonna be able to delegate it to people, but now because I have the capacity, I'm able to create what I do. And throughout my process, whatever I do in the future, I do still want to be hands-on and interact with everything that I'm creating.
Mm.
It just depends on the scale and stuff like that also. Um, but one term that I do like is engineer, and that's why I called myself Kashenko the engineer, because it's like that when I have you seen Prometheus?
Yeah.
That movie inspired me because, these humans were traveling through the freaking galaxies and the universe, but they referred to their creators as engineers. And
Yeah.
that really stuck with me because, yeah, I get to engineer realities based on my
Mm.
desires. So,
Hmm.
like, it's, And I also do like freaking vocal engineering or all that kind of stuff. So it just there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah, yeah,
dimensions to it.
yeah.
But I
To
love
the
the
engineer,
term.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the term engineer.
Yeah, because the engineer, they design. That's design. Yeah, and that's what they're doing. It's all about design. It's funny, Will.i.am says the same thing. He even said, change. Uh, oh no, he said change futurist to design. Design, yeah. But yeah, it's all the same. It's all
Yeah.
in the same umbrella. But it's more of a. I feel like it's more of like a a what's the word? It's like if you when I talk to people, like for example, when people are like, oh, what do you, people ask me what I do. And if I do go the route of music, I'm like, oh, so your music, you do music? And they're like, do you play instruments? Like I'm a band player. And I said, no, I'm a studio engineer.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the mind change
Yeah.
just because I put the engineer
Yeah.
on it, on the end. And it changes the whole perspective of how they think of, the creation of music. So, but yeah, I think engineer is a fucking rad word.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just resonates deeply with
It
my
fits,
soul.
it fits. It's definitely a more fitting and more like respectable. I feel like the respect on it is really like, prominent.
The respect on
Yeah.
its name.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Put some respect on my name. Yeah.
Man, I feel like we could talk for so long, but
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you up for the whole day.
Nah, you good. You good. You good. You good. I got time. I'm chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a good convo.
Yeah, it has. And I
Yeah.
wanted people to like hear your perspectives too because, we have our personal conversations in private
Mm.
and just being able to share this in public for people to receive the codes and receive the medicines of like just
Mm.
your specific
Yeah.
journey, your specific perspectives, and because what you have to offer is so profound and important for creatives to receive. And I think just having these conversations and sharing it will help other people access what they need to at the relevant time in their journey too. So
Yeah. I think it's so important to have these conversations, man. Like, because, you know, like how we were talking before about the artists or the creatives that are sitting in doubt, you know? I think it's so important that they just need perspective,
yeah.
you know, and 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 like I said, nurturing, and know it's okay. Know that someone has walked down the path you're looking at, and it's okay, you know. But yeah, no, I love it.
I love it too, and I appreciate you so much. Maybe it's something that we can do again in the future at some point
A
as
thousand percent.
as things
You already know the
develop.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you can just let me know.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Solo. We're gonna conclude
Shout out to
this
all the
now.
people in the chat. Yeah.
Shout out to all the
Bill, Bill,
people.
Bill. Yeah. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my dad. Shout out to my auntie and my auntie's cousin's dad. Shit.
And my cousin's dad.
My
Look.
cousin said cousin. We out here. We made it, baby. No, nah, I'm joking. Nah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time
Oh, good.
and I appreciate the flowers too.
Of
That's
course.
yeah. It's dope.
Of
Yeah.
course.
We'll definitely do this again for sure.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much. And
Oh, good.
peace out.
Peace, y'all.